Hi, Trisha Morris here at Club Scrap, and welcome to the Kids Rule Card Kit tutorial. We don't often do a kit that focuses on the kiddos that are, let's just say, under maybe 10 years old, and we've put together a fun primary colored set of card bases and ribbons and artwork that will be great for the young ones in your life that you really want to show them how much you care with a handmade card. So I've got my instructions printed, I've got my kit here with all of the cut-aparts, card panels, and goodies. And so let's get started on making these three unique card structures. As always, we'll begin by trimming our cut-aparts. Now there is a smaller sheet of cut-apart here. Let's just start with this one. And when you put this in the trimmer, you'll notice that there are some cut marks. You just look very closely here. These little registration marks on the edges, so you can line those up with your trimmer blade and cut all the way around the perimeter and then separate them into two pieces. If you look at your instructions, you can see that both of those two pieces go in card set A. And as always, I'm using my handy accordion pocket file here to organize my pieces. If you don't have one of these accordion pocket files made for yourself, you can always just put the pieces into three different piles on your work surface. It's just wonderful to have that as a tool to organize if you don't have a lot of space. All right, then let's move on and trim the next sheet into separate art segments. These three larger pieces go with card set B. Once again, this larger piece is set B, and then you have three matching pieces of artwork. All of them go into C, pocket C or pile C, and we'll do our final piece. All right, these four narrow strips go into pocket A. These two pieces also go into pocket A. All right, we have a big stack of strips the same size here. The first four of them. So proud, so proud. Eat lots of cake, have fun and eat cake. These four go into pocket C. And then you've got these three remaining. You're so special and have a super duper special day. B. Here's a tip. When you have a small piece like this that needs to be trimmed, I like to bring it more to the middle of my trimmer base so I can see exactly where those registration marks land according to the blade, and I can just prep those two pieces a little more easily. All four of these pieces go into pocket C. Now this larger piece goes into C, and then have a super duper special day B, and that concludes all the trimming for the cut apart. So we do have a few other things we need to trim. Look in your pile of card panels and bases. I did ask Deb, who's the gal here who collates everything for me, to put some special pieces on the top, and you'll see that there is just one blue piece, one green, one red, and it's just really nice when I have an opportunity to have her help me collate things in an order that will be helpful for both of us. This blue piece, the single blue, that measures 4 by 7 is going to be trimmed into 4 sub panels. Okay, those measurements are 5 1/4, and this is horizontal, 5 1/4, 3 1/2, 1 3/4. So you've just made 4 panels that measure 1 3/4 by 4, and all of them go into pocket A. There's also a green panel that measures 3 1/4 by 10. We'll also separate this into 4 panels. We'll start cutting horizontally at 7 1/2, 5, and 2 1/2. All 4 of these panels also go into set A. Then you'll have a larger red panel. This gets trimmed into 4 individual pieces. So place it in the trimmer horizontally. It currently measures 4 1/4 by 11. And we will cut it 8 1/4, 5 1/2, and 2 3/4. This goes into set C. Okay, now let's do some more filing and scoring. So I think we'll begin by getting rid of our trimmer and replacing it with our score pal. Here you have just 4 blue panels. All of those will be placed in pocket B. 4 green panels, those go into pocket C. The rest of these pieces will be scored, so let's get that done. This is the card base for our stand-up card, so it does require quite a few scores. So just bear with me. Our first score of this 4 1/4 by 11 red card base is at just 1/2 inch. So just however you can manage that. Then 2 inches, 4 inches, 5.5 inches. Then you'll repeat those same scoring marks on the remaining 3 pieces in your kit. Take all of those pieces and put them in pocket A, and then you'll find some smaller yellow panels. These currently measure 2 3/4 by 5.5, and we'll score them twice. At 1/2 inch, so a half, and then at 2. Repeat. These also go set A. And now the card bases for card set B. This is a nice simple one. The final size of the card is 4 1/4 by 5.5, so we will score the yellow at 4 1/4. All of these go into set B. Then you have 4 more panels for set B. These measure 8 1/4 by 5 1/4. And scoring these is optional. We did trim the paper with the score line, and this is a 65-pound coverweight paper rather than 80-pound, so it does fold more easily. If you would like to score them, do so gently, because the paper isn't quite as heavy as the 80-pound cover, and score it at 4 1/8. Next, you have these really odd-sized yellow card bases. It just does seem like a really odd size, but it will all work out. So we're going to score these horizontally at 4 1/4. And what that will do is create the base portion of our card and a narrow flap that will go to the front of the card. This goes in set C. And one last panel. They're blue. They currently measure 4 by 4.5. So you want to place this vertically in your score pal so that the measurement you're seeing here is 4. And I want you to score at 3. What that does is creates a 1-inch flap. File this in pocket C, and all of our prep work is done. The construction for all of the cards in set A is exactly the same, so we'll just make one card together so you can get an idea of how this all works. It's kind of nice because you'll notice that we have a cut-apart for each nesting mat that we've prepared in advance. So you can go ahead and just, if you would like, I usually do this all at once as I nest all of the pieces of artwork, especially if I know that I'm not going to be wrapping ribbons or different things around the art panels. So I'm just using my ATG glue or adhesive for these. And next I've got my card base and another weird panel. You'll notice I did not flip these cards as I was scoring, and our rule of thumb here is to always fold so that the bump of the score line is on the inside of the fold, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And when you do fold the paper like that, it prepares the way for our card to do exactly what we needed to do, which is to form this rectangular shape. And our goal then is to adhere the small 1/2-inch tab that we made to the appropriate spot on the back of the card base. It's pretty simple to do that if you just kind of study where that piece would land when the card is flat. That will be where that piece needs to be when it's adhered. Okay, so I'm going to take Club Scraps bookbinding glue, which I've placed inside this handy needle tip applicator, and I will apply some of that adhesive. Now you could certainly use a dry adhesive for this as well, but my ATG tape is pretty wide for this project. So you saw what I did. I just put the glue on it and then closed the card and pressed it flat after I'd studied where that piece needs to go. And now I have this box card almost ready for decorating. The same thing happens with this yellow panel. I will fold so that the bump of the score is on the inside. And now I have a piece ready to attach to the front. And then this little 1/2" tab will adhere to the back of the card like this. So maybe we'll start out first. I'll flatten the card differently. And then we want to center this. Depends on how conscientious you want to be. But you can certainly use a ruler to help you find the center. A critical thing here is that you not apply adhesive over this entire panel, only the part that will adhere to the bottom portion of our card base. So here I'm finding my centers first of the card and then of my panel. Looks like it's going to be 1 3/8. I can safely set this down knowing it's perfectly centered. Now this little tab will attach itself right here. So if I just kind of hold that there and flatten the card, I can easily figure out where this is going to live and safely put my adhesive on. So here's my glue. And then just close this card right, and that will perfectly plant the tab where it needs to go. Give it a second, and what I love about this glue is it dries so quickly, especially if you don't over apply. And now my card structure is perfectly formed. To finish, we'll do 3 things. We'll attach the green nested cut-aparts in the front, and then the blue up here. Oh, that is so sweet. And I love that this sort of looks like a gift box, and to add to that look, I'm going to use this ribbon, and I'm checking to see which way the ribbon grain wants to go. Obviously, it wants to fold in this way, so that's how I will wrap it around the top of this yellow panel. Now, you certainly can do this step before you've attached the yellow panel to the card base, whatever you find to be easiest. And I'll just tie a simple knot. So I've wrapped it all the way around. Trim those ends at an angle. That is so sweet. So the nice part is when your friend gets this card, it does mail flat. It's easy to mail, but then when they receive it, they can easily pop it up and set it up to enjoy. The remaining 3 cards in this set are made the same exact way, so let's move on to set B. I'm going to be showing you 2 different cards styles from set B. It's up to you how you would like to put these together, but I think it's important for me to at least demonstrate how the inside pop-up structure of the card works. Let me show you where we're headed. Here is the card we're going to make together, and if you open it up, I love this. There's a pop-up in the middle, and I'm going to call this freestyle pop-up making because there are really no specific measurements, just a technique that I used in order to create this clever little brick-like pop-up. So we'll begin with our green piece of paper that's been scored in the center at 4 1/8 and just fold it in half. And you'll need a scissors for this step. So the first thing I'm going to do, and you know, they're not all exactly the same, so it's okay, just do it however you'd like. I am cutting 2 slits into the folded edge that are about 3/4 of an inch long, and they're about maybe 2 inches wide. I don't know. I'm not going to measure it because it really doesn't matter. And then I will fold a tab into that slit and then unfold it again so that it's laying flat. Open the card and then pop out the tab that you just made. And that's just a single basic pop-up. So you can close this again and solidify that fold that you made. Perfect. Okay. The next step is going to be to add additional slits. So I'm going to start here. And these slits will be slightly narrower and shorter than the one I made to start with. And then there's my little tab. I just made it into one of the folds. I'm going to flip the card over and I will cut maybe a little bit of a wider slit here. Again, this is freestyle pop-up making, so there's really no right or wrong. Just that I think it looks cool if you make all of your little slits different sizes. Okay, now I've close them again. I'll open my card and pop out those 2 new pop-ups I made. Cute. Close again and flatten. I'm just going to make sure it's safe to put my greeting on that ledge. So I'm going to do a test and close the card to make sure my pop-up doesn't go out past the edge. Like maybe a 5-year-old wouldn't care if it did, but I know you do. So that's just a little tip to keep in mind. With some of my bookbinding glue, I'll apply it just to that edge of the ridge and then place that here. Just give it a second. And now you've got this adorable pop-up all set to go. Now while that dries, let's get the rest of the card ready to go. So here's the bump of my score. We'll bring it to the inside of the fold. And I did make a 3-part bow for the outside of the card. And that involves having 3 pieces of ribbon and some tape. I'll just tear off a tiny piece. And I'll take the medium-sized piece of ribbon and make a loop and tape it. And then another small piece of tape will go here. And I'll attach it to my long piece of ribbon, kind of off center a little bit, that's intentional. Then place your loop and wrap that small piece around it. And tape it on the back. If you have extra, going to the edge, you can always snip that off if you need to. And then, I thought it was kind of sweet how it matched the size of the Lego block there. I'll tape the ribbon ends on the back. Come in with my ATG adhesive and nest this onto the blue panel and then onto yellow card base. Here's a trick for attaching the green pop-up to the inside of the card. Just kind of temporarily set it there. And you'll notice there's a reveal on the top, bottom, and right edges. I'm putting adhesive on the areas that are green. And then I'm centering from top to bottom. And then I'm making sure that the green panel is lined up with the folded edge of the yellow card base. And then just kind of close. Oh, that worked. That worked really well. Then, okay, so we're closing on top of that. So that's one side. And if you just want to flip it over, I'm right-handed, so this is most comfortable. And repeat. And now you have your freestyle pop-up Lego card. That is adorable. I'll show you the other pop-up technique where we make a balloon. Here's our balloon card. It's a very simple pop-up structure, and you can make a heart, you can make really anything you want. I just thought the balloon was really fun for the theme. Take your green pop-up mechanism piece and fold it in half. And I think I'll just use a pencil here to draw a shape onto the folded edge. I'm going to start at the top, close to the top, maybe about a ½ inch down from the edge, and I'm just going to draw an oval. And then before I reach the fold, I'll add that little extra thing that, where you tie off the balloon, we want that to be there as well. And if you're not exactly, if you want to just reshape, you can. Like I'm going to have more of an oval. And then I'm going to draw like a straight line right here. That is where I'm not going to cut. Otherwise, I am going to cut these other areas. Just kind of like when you used to cut a heart into a folded piece of paper to make Valentine's. So I'm stopping at that solid line I drew. Then I'll just kind of jut in a little bit with my scissors, double back. Be careful to cut to the fold. And then around and to that straight line I drew. So now you have the bottom of the balloon and the top of the balloon. And here's where we make the tab, just like we did in the other freestyle pop-up. This is also freestyle pop-upping. Okay, isn't this fun? All right, so I've made my tab in both directions and closed it again. I got some pencil going on here. If you want, you can erase but it's not really necessary. So we open and then reverse that fold of the balloon so that it, instead of being a valley, it becomes a mountain fold, and you just kind of tuck it inside. Look at that. Isn't that just the sweetest thing? Now your kit came with this twine, green and white twine, and so all I'm going to do is loop it around the tie-off part of your balloon that you cut, and then just tie that in a knot. So I trimmed the ends, and I have this excess. I trimmed the ribbon the twine quite long, and that's kind of intentional so that I can maybe adhere this to the left side of the card with some bookbinding adhesive. Just put a little dot here, and now you've got the string. And then we have our greeting, so have a super duper spectacular day. You can put that anywhere on the inside. And now this is the balloon you can give the little one that's never going to fly away into the sky and then they're crying. This one stays put. So you'll attach this to the inside of the yellow card base and nest the greeting onto the front as well. And I'll quick show you what I did with the extra twine that I had. After making 2 pop-up balloons, I used all the rest to do a double wrap around this particular outer cut apart for this card. And that just turned out really sweet. So I hope you enjoy making those pop-ups, and let's finish up with set C. For this card set C, I've got a yellow card base, a blue panel, a green panel, a red panel, and some artwork. And we chose to have 2 cards that say "Way to Go," just because I know that's the other way we cheer on our loved ones, is to encourage them when they do something great. So that's why we have these 2 Way to Go's. I'm going to start out with taking this blue panel that you've scored and fold to create a 1-inch flap on this panel. I'm going to take this flap bottom, and I'm just going to eyeball this. I'll put some adhesive on the 1-inch tab, wrap it back around, and now I have this flap attached to my green panel. If you want, you can go ahead and round the corners. I'm going to use the 1/4-inch punch on my corner chomper just to round the corners of the flap of my blue panel, and then I'll nest this onto the inside of my yellow card base. Great. Now I'm going to fold in this flap on my yellow card base, and I'm also going to round these corners, and this time I'll just use the 1/4-inch setting. It's up to you what you're in the mood to use. This flap will go in first, and then the blue flap goes on top of that. Now I've got another panel that nests onto the blue flap, and to match, I'm just going to round the upper left and lower left corners of the red panel. Now I'm going to take one of these darling little flag-shaped tags, and I'm going to attach it to the red panel so that the tag does not extend beyond the left edge of the card. Just put a little adhesive on this edge and add that. Then I'll take a piece of this pretty blue ribbon. I'm going to fold it in half and cut at an angle to make that like swallowtail edge, or that V that we all like. And it just matches with what we've already done with the tag. And I will add a little adhesive and plop that ribbon right on there. Perfect. Now if I study this panel, I notice that there is a square corner and a rounded corner. So I'm going to punch the corresponding rounded corners on the 1/4-inch setting. Maybe center top to bottom, and then maybe about 1/8 of an inch from the right edge here. That's just a matter of personal preference, of course. In fact, every aspect of all of these cards is personal preference. Okay. You'll notice here you have a squared corner on the left and a rounded corner on the right. I'll round the right corners just for balance. And I'll place this right about there. If you wanted to, you could use some foam adhesive to make that pop up a little bit. Or we could do it up here. Kind of like that. however you want. And then, of course, on the inside of the card, you got the So Proud of You, which is perfect. To finish this, I'll make sure I keep this to the right so that it's hidden by the blue panel before it's opened. I always do this step last. Anything that I use with glue, I just do last if possible. And I'll add a little bit to the button. And plop that right there. And you got this darling little card. There you have it, the Kids Rule card kit. I hope all the little people in your life love it. Enjoy.